Big Milwaukee guy. Big Milwaukee guy.
You should probably say it one more time.
Big Milwaukee guy.
I am getting started on headers. So these were the headers that I had bought that I was hoping was going to work with this motor, but they work with the motor and don't work with the K-member because we're running the stock 9495 K-member in this car. So really the only thing that's going to fit with this motor setup and this K-member is a custom set of headers, and I'm gonna make them. I tried to get into a couple places to get some headers made. It wasn't gonna work out in the time frame that I had. So I am going to take on the task of making my own headers, and it'll be my first set. So it'll be a learning process for me, but I think I can just take a little bit of time and make some headers that'll work exactly for the application. So to start off, I've got all my tube. I've got 36 feet of different tubes with bends and straights that I can use, chop up, and use to modify the headers. Belt sander that Tori got, which just got here in the perfect amount of time because I'm going to need it for making sure I have good mating surfaces for the tubes. And we're going to be using some of these, some of the parts off of this. We're going to use the collectors because I'm not going to get new collectors. I'm not able to return these headers, and I'm not going to be able to sell them. So they're pretty specific application, and it's going to be hard to sell them. So I'm just going to eat the price that I paid for those and use them to work on this car. So one of the other things that I did was I printed these pieces on my 3D printer. And basically what they are is to use to mock up the different tubes, the bends, and in which way I want them to fit. Clip together, and this is a 22.5 degree bend, and 2 of them make a 45, 4 of them make a 90 of the right diameter that I'm using, and shows the exact length that I need when I put this together. So I have straights and I have bends. And what's really cool about these is on these actual parts, they show the different center lines for your center line radius and all of that. So I got to get these all cleaned up. They 3D printed and they got all the supports in there. So I got to pull all the supports out of these parts and then acetone them like these ones so that they're a little bit stronger when I'm using them and unclipping them. So those should help big time. And other than that, I've got the header flanges cut out from our buddy Dan, who also did my adapter plates that I didn't end up using. But got the flanges, tube, collectors, belt sander, welders. Time to get to work. We'll see how it goes. I think I'm going to start with using the very beginnings of these. I'm going to figure out which section that I want to stop at, and then build off of that and make sure, the biggest thing is to be making sure that these are equal length, this side and the other side. So other than that, gonna get started and just roll with it, see how it goes. It'll be interesting. Alright, so I got all of the tubes cut and then ran them on the belt sander so I have nice flat edges. And that was definitely a key part for doing these because it's gonna make it way easier than using a flapper disc and eyeballing it. So all these are cut and good. I have them numbered per cylinder that they were, and I'm going to put them back in with this flange and then decide which section that I think I can cut, and then try and make each length the same to start, and then go from there. I'll build off of that. So I'll be using the first part of these headers and then altering the back part because I'm going to want to put the collector in a different position. And so I'm going to get one tube, one primary built up so that way I can hold the collector in its spot and then build from there. Alrighty, you guys, so you saw me tacking up the tube, cutting the tube, getting it in position and tacking it up. So I have the first primary done from cylinder 5 and it turned out pretty good. Goes nice and around the steering shaft and gets the collector right in the position that I really want it to. Now I'd actually be able to build the exhaust off of this at an angle and follow the frame rail. So it might be a little bit difficult still, but I think that we can make that manage a little bit more. We can always take off a little bit on this and then slide it up. So it's got good space between the actual car and here, so there shouldn't be any interference anywhere that it's at. Now we'll have to see how everything else lines up. This one will be fun because it's going to be real tight on the actual block itself, and same with the one up there. But looks like we'll be able to make this work, so I'm going to work on getting the cylinder 6 pipe cut to the 15 inches that I was doing off of the original header, and then figuring out how I'm going to try and make it at least pretty damn close to the same length. So alrighty, on to the next. It's a slow process that took me a couple hours, but I think it's set up right, and then building the other side will actually be a little bit easier because I won't have the steering shaft in the way. So here we go. Alright, so what I realized when I was going to tack in these primaries was if I tack these in and they're good to go, the part that I need to weld is going to be covered. So I went ahead and TIG welded that up and got that out of the way, just the top surface, and then I'll finish weld everything else. Did that, tacked in the other primary, and then set it back into the car here. So what it's looking like is I'm gonna have to come off here and try and fit the rest of the tube in there. So it's gonna kind of be a funky little bend to try and make these equal, but I think that we can do it. I don't think there will be a problem with it, and it's real tight on the block here, as you may notice. So hopefully that's okay. The only other thing I could do is spin this all the way back over here, which might be a little bit better now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, we're gonna have to change that real quick. That's what happens when I talk and think out loud. Alrighty, continue on. Okay, so what I did was I repositioned it, and before I had it clocked this way, and I clocked it back this way to the outside of the block. So as you can see, it's gonna be a pretty daunting bend I'm gonna have to take to make that work and try and get it the same length as this cylinder 5. So we're gonna have to get creative here and see what we got going on, but not doing any pie cuts and keeping it all in bends. Gonna make it work. This might take me a little bit, and we'll see what happens down here. I might have to end up sliding this down a little bit, which would be okay. Okay, so I got 2 pieces cut for the second primary tube, and I kind of went back to twisting it in towards the block. I got these 2 pieces cut in here, and they line up pretty good, and they come around and just hug the block here. So before I go any further, I'm going to make a piece that at least comes out from here. The reason why I'm thinking that this will be better is I can do something kind of crazy to try and make these 2 more equal. I think it'll be a little bit better than coming out and down. Like I can actually have this one come out and down, and then I can make this one kind of come out and in with a curve, because this is going to have to be a curved piece. So I'm going to cut a bend here and see if I can even get it into this spot and how close it is to the block, and then I'll proceed with this or cut a new piece to twist it back this way. Fit, cut, fit, cut, fit, cut. Let's keep going. Alright, so I got cylinder 7 set in there and all taped up. So this one, to make up some of the length, to try and keep them as equal as possible, makes a big loop down and in compared to just straight in. And what I'm going to do with cylinder 8 is I'm going to try and take it straight down between the 2 on the other side of the steering shaft, and then into this bottom port down here. So I got the mock-up piece in there, kind of got my angles, the idea of them. So I'm gonna take this and make, it looks like I'm gonna have to make a small 45 piece, a 45 with about 3 inches straight, and then a, oh, what is that?
Plus
45, 67 and a half, 67 and a half degree. So we're gonna try and mock this up and then fit it into the spot that it's gonna go and try and build off of that. This one is gonna be a challenge, I think, because I got one spot it can go, one spot only, so we'll just try and make it fit. See how far we get. It's already almost 1, so see how much more. See, hopefully I'm trying to get this one side done today, and then I'll try to get the other side done tomorrow. so got that piece mocked up like you guys saw and fitted it into the engine bay. And it's looking pretty good. Comes right down between the two and goes right below the steering shaft. So now I'm gonna crawl underneath the car and check it out from here and see what we got going on. And it looks like it's gonna make things interesting. But we got plenty of clearance around the steering shaft. Shouldn't be an issue. And it looks like we got just a little bit of a loop that we got to do right there. So I'll use my mock-up pieces again for that because it's really easy with the angles. Kind of spin it around, and so far this is where the exhaust is coming out at. And it looks kind of, let's see, it's tucked up a lot more than what it used to be. And I'll be able to carry the exhaust out, the rest of the exhaust this way to a crossover. So I think it'll be okay like this. I don't think it needs to kick in anymore. But the biggest part will be replicating it on this side with the starter. I gotta make sure it fits with the starter, so yeah, alrighty, well, carry on.